spring this past October that my father and I attended comedian Bill Burr's stand-up routine. Sharp-witted and raw, we both laughed at his arsenal of jokes, ranging from the topics of Kanye ego to the stupidity of people who believe in ghosts. But for me, it wasn't his dark and rude observational humor of life that caught my eye. It was his ability to chuckle off all of life's farces, even in the darkest of situations. It was here when I began to recall my own farces in life and remember how funny they actually were. My particular and stupid sense of humor has sometimes led me to situations of misunderstanding. During my sophomore year, my history teacher, Mr. Klein, was gone, and in his absence, Mr. Zebart was called up to fill the void. We had heard frightful legends about this man, most of whom were told by Mr. Klein himself. One of which was that if he was not satisfied by a student's performance, he would summon the Dementors to haunt you for all eternity. As we sat down, Mr. Zebart introduced himself, proclaiming that these rumors were true, telling us, "I'm not a nice guy." His first duty as our substitute was attendance. As he made his way down the sheet of names, we finally arrived to my friend's name, Jason Smallage. As he attempted to pronounce the two-syllable nomenclature, I soon chuckled in amusement, for he botched the articulation of the name by adding an extra syllable and unnecessary vowels and consonants, only to be pronounced as Smallage. He looked up, turned directly at my seat, and asked, "What is so funny?" A drip of sweat began to slide down my forehead. I was nervous. I calmly and cautiously responded, "Well, you said his name wrong." At this moment, I knew I was doomed. The anticipation of his clothes tearing, his skin turning green, and screaming the phrase "Zebart Smash" was already enough for me to roll over and die on the spot. I frantically sought shelter. It was at this moment I found Cole Holmes. Cole and I were very good friends, thunder buddies for life. It was here when I began to look him in the eyes and say, "Holmes, it's time to take one for the team, buddy." Cole looked at me with his usual stupefied face and said, "No." It seemed hopeless. I covered my head with my arms in fear of what would happen. But yet, Mr. Zebart's skin didn't turn leafy green, and a failed blow didn't strike me down. He just looked into my eyes with a shiny glimmer in his pupil and screamed, "Get the hell out of my room." I sat in the hall that period, listening to Peter Weller talk about how awesome he is. At the end of class, I was approached by Mr. Zebart, as he told me how disappointed he was in me. The following year, I happened to have him as my psychology teacher. Being one of 3 students in that class, I got to know him on positive grounds. He, in fact, was actually a nice and genuine person and one of my favorite teachers. When I happened to bring up the fading incident, he seemed to chuckle it off. I too learned to find humor, reminding me that it was actually quite funny. Humility and laughter seemed to go hand in hand. In my English class with Mr. Hoverson, I learned to laugh at myself in the most unfortunate way. It was the night before one of his tests. I hid the books in order to cushion the blow. Yet, my fate, like many others, was already predetermined, for we all knew we were going to fail. That night, I fought the urge of becoming distracted. A new episode of Finding Bigfoot was on, and I wanted to see if they finally found it. I wouldn't let this hinder my studies, so I fought on. 3/4 toward the finish, a little voice in my head told me to watch this video about a kid skateboarder named Martin McFly Williams who's going to bomb this asteroid. Unfortunately, this caused a chain reaction of watching pointless videos of World Star, leading me to ignore studying for the test the next day. The next day after he returned to class, Mr. Hoverson returned the test to each of his students. He set mine on my desk, face down. Finally got enough courage to turn over the page and review my results. I looked, and looked at it again. It was then that I began to laugh uncontrollably. It was written 5 out of 30, about 15% correct. I I knew the colleges pursuing me like Oxford and Harvard would not deem this acceptable. Woody Hubble sat next to me and he was laughing as well. I asked him, Woody, what did you get? He picked up his test, turned his body, and showed me his score. Woody got a 5.5. Situation that having a good ability to laugh at yourself is helpful. Now, many may be wondering, why should I listen to this cadet, no rank, who's implying that we should just laugh at him? First, I'm saving my shoulders because of the burden I will carry tomorrow when I'm appointed cadet colonel. And second, what I'm saying is that we should all take time to find the humor in life and in our life. If we do not, then a day without laughter is truly a day in waste. Thank you.